I am about to make a terrible decision. So, Honkai Star Rail just announced a collab with Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, and, I'm kind of a fan of HSR, so I decided to watch the entire Fate Stay Night series. Yes, that means Fate Stay Night 2006, Unlimited Blade Works, Heaven's Fields 1 through 3, and Fate Zero. Maybe in the future I'll continue, but I don't even know if I'll like the series at this point in time. After all, my entire knowledge of this franchise, no joke, is from Battle Cats. Also, before I get crucified, yes, I'm gonna watch it in sub. Anyway, enough stalling on my part, as I'm gonna go watch all of Fate Stay Night 2006, because this is the order IGN told me to do, so if it's wrong, flame them, not me. And obviously, spoilers ahead for each of these seasons. Alright, I just finished Fate Stay Night 2006, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. A lot of people dog on the series and say it isn't worth watching, but I'd honestly give it like a 7.8 out of 10, and I only really had one issue with it. Why did my DVD not have the people die when they are killed line? This is bullcrap, I demand a refund. 0 out of 10. All jokes aside, Shiro is certainly a bit of a whack protagonist with some of the biggest plot armor I have ever seen, but I still thought it was a good MC overall. But the important question, who was the best character? And my answer is a tie between Rin and Sakura. I also really liked Saber though. Also, fun trivia I learned. This series was originally an adult visual novel. And yes, I mean an adult visual novel. Well, on to Unlimited Blade Works. Just a little side note, Unlimited Blade Works episode 0 was amazing, and if it continues this pace, this will be a certified banger. Unlimited Blade Works Core 1 / Season 1 or whatever you want to call it was really good. UFOtable obviously cooked on the animation, and all of the fights looked really good. My favourite part was noticing all the changes between 2006 and Unlimited Blade Works. They started off really small, like command seals being used at different places, and the same outcomes happening in different ways. However, when the real big changes happened, like Ryder dying from Caster, Shinji getting Gilgamesh as a servant, and Saber falling under control of Caster, I was so excited to see what would happen next. Yeah, my actual favourite part of this call was Rin, though. Either way, I get the hype around this season, but I do think it makes sense to watch 2006 first, as it made the ending scene of this call so much cooler. Also, poor Shiro had the worst day ever. My guy got laughed at the whole time and was constantly teased by Rin. Oh, he also got, stabbed and lost Saber as a servant, but that's besides the point. Overall, 8.4 out of 10. Another little side note, Unlimited Blade Works episode 20, titled Unlimited Blade Works, was such a peak episode. Best episode of the franchise so far for me, and easily a 10 out of 10. Lancer being an absolute chad and protecting Rin from the two creeps all the way to his death. Shiro versus Archer and the clash of their ideals into Shiro accepting his future. The whole build-up scene which peaked with him saying, "I am the bone of my sword." God, this episode was so good. Unlimited Blade Works Core 2 was amazing. All of the build-up of the rest of the season finally came to fruition, and everything I thought I knew about the show was thrown out of the window. Honestly, my only gripe with the season was that I didn't really like the epilogue all that much. It served its purpose in showing that no matter what, Shiro was always going to continue on his path, as that was his fate. Stay Night. Unlimited Blade Works. Jokes aside though, this season has definitely given me a new mental illness known as being a Fate fan. It's over for me, man, I'm cooked. Gilgamesh is an epic villain, and seeing Shiro manage to rise above him was amazing. Lancer was an absolute legend, rest in peace to my guy. Ilya and Berserker's story was tragic and was definitely made sadder by me watching 2006, which was just basically his little sister. Shocking nobody, nothing changed between Core 1 and 2, as Rin Tosaka is still my favourite character in the show. The crazy part is, I still haven't even talked about the main part of this route, Archer. Archer is such a cool guy, and him coming back as a guardian to save them when Shiro and Gilgamesh were at a stalemate and Rin ready to accept her death was such a cool touch. However, I might just be dumb, but I really don't get how Archer being future Shiro works, because he's also present in the other routes, where Shiro takes a different path. I don't get it, so if someone can explain that to me, I'd definitely appreciate it. Overall, a 9.3 out of 10. This call was an absolute banger, giving Unlimited Blade Works a total score of 8.85 out of 10. So I'm just going to round it up to 9. I also watched the Sunny Day OVA as well, just for good measure, and in my mind, this is the canon ending, as Saber remains with Shiro and Rin in a three-way relationship. I guess. 7 out of 10. So now on to Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. Wait, what, did I not just watch that? Nope, it turns out the Studio Deen also made Unlimited Blade Works into a movie to follow after the Fate route. So I ordered the Blu-ray and I will watch it when it arrives. Hey, you guys read the visual novel, right? This movie felt like I was watching a compilation of randomly assorted clips that strung together barely. Though I guess that's what happens when you try to adapt a 20-hour visual novel into a movie that's less than 2 hours long. The emotional weight is lessened considerably because we lose all of the in-between scenes that build up the characters and their relationships. This is definitely a cleaner version of 2006's art style, but that may be because I'm watching this on Blu-ray instead of DVD. Yep, that's right, watching. I am snoozing at this, so I started writing the script already. Now that I've finished it, let's go over everything missing. Ilya's backstory, Shiro's ideals versus Archer's, that's hell you're walking into, Saber's scabbard being implanted into Shiro, every single slice of life scene, not to mention the entire beginning of the story, and yet we still had time for the mana transfer scene which wasn't even explained. Overall, pacing is what ruins what would have been a pretty good movie. If I hadn't already watched Unlimited Blade Works, then I would have gotten lost in the source immediately. This is just inferior to the UFOtable adaptation, and it's only worth watching if you're trying to watch everything, like I am. A 5 out of 10 film, but I'm downgrading it to a 4, purely because there's no reason to watch this over the UFOtable version. According to my anime list, I'm in the minority with this opinion, but oh well, on to Heaven's Feel, which I'm super excited for. I'm going to be real here. I don't know how I'm going to explain my thoughts on this movie without spoilers, so if you haven't watched Heaven's Feel yet, do yourself a favour and watch it. They recently added the entire trilogy to Crunchyroll, after I spent £30 on the Blu-ray for it. How the hell did Fate fans wait 2 years between each film, man? Because I've just finished the first film and already want to watch the next. Too bad it's midnight. What on God's green earth did I just witness? This one movie saw I managed to raise the stakes higher than Unlimited Blade Works did during its climax. Ryder got one shot by Saber and is totally dead. All of the main villains of Unlimited Blade Works got murked by a figure that is part of the assassin class in the most gruesome deaths we've seen in the series so far. Then Shiro had a wet dream. Wait, what was that last part? And this was all the first hour of the film. The goat Lancer got touched up by some rope-looking things that I only know of from Battle Cats, and not to mention Saber actually dying. If you can't tell, a lot happened in this film. I wasn't sure whether I was going to review all the films separately or not, but I have too much to say about this one. The crazy part is, I ain't even talked about Sakura yet, and she's the main focus of the route. So she's obviously going to be evil at some point in this film, as she keeps having nightmares every single time someone dies. All I'm saying is we haven't seen the weird rope thing and Sakura in the same room yet, and she's been snoozing every time it's appeared. Sakura's whole family also absolutely sucks. Shinji has been a knobhead that should have died way earlier in every route, and the Elder is a creep that's just killing people because why not? I think this review will be a massive mess if I continue, so I'm going to cut it short and give this film a rating of 8.9 out of 10. And I feel like that's harsh. Either way, I'll be watching part 2 tomorrow, so I'm definitely hyped for that.
Life could be a dream, life could be a dream.
Let's get one thing out of the way. All of my homies hate Shinji. This creature is top tier scumbag. He makes people like Multi and Marmy look like saints in comparison. While watching, I was joking about him being incestual, but nope, he just straight up rapes his little sister and uses her as a puppet. I have never been happier to see a character die, as I'm so tired of his sorry ass. Anyway, this movie was certainly one of the most concerning things I've ever watched, but first, I gotta talk about what I was looking at. The visuals on the Saber Alter versus Berserker fight was genuinely one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in anime. Also, I swear Berserker just never gets a peaceful death in this franchise, does he? Anytime the thing that I'll refer to as Glitch Sakura, for a lack of a better term, appeared, it looked super ominous, especially in that one scene where it appears all over the city. But where do I even begin with the story? Like, genuinely, I'm so lost in the source. So Ryder is fully alive again, and turns out to be Sakura's servant and not Shinji's. Ryder is the heroic spirit of Medusa, I guess, I'm not actually sure on that. Sakura licks Shiro's blood in a very odd way, then she does something I can't say on YouTube without getting age restricted. Trust guys, it's definitely relevant to the plot. Apparently this is due to her being controlled by crest worms or something like that. Probably just a side effect of it being based on an adult visual novel. Then the Saber Berserker fight happens, Archer dies, rip my goat, and Shiro gets an arm transplant from Archer. Also, that one bit where Archer tosses Shiro to the ground and then carefully places Ilya down is the funniest thing I've seen all week. They then do a mana transfer. Twice. Sakura has an LSD trip where she is a princess in an Alice in Wonderland style setting. It then hard cuts to her no longer eating sweets, but instead eating a human. Gilgamesh shows up and gets absolutely toasted by a mangled glitchy Sakura, and all I'm thinking at this point is what the hell is this? Rin and Sakura are also sisters, so I guess Shiro's type is a gender-bent king and people with the last name Tosaka. I don't have much more to say, but I did slightly prefer the first movie. However, I'll still be giving this film an 8.8 out of 10. Also, you can tell I'm more into this series now, as I've said basically triple what I did for the entire Fate route about one movie. So, I've just finished Heaven's Feel 3, and I honestly don't know what to think of it. So obviously, all of the fights looked amazing, and this movie was consistently beautiful. But I actually got so lost in the source by the end of it, and I'm just confused. I might be a dribble, but everything past the halfway point of this film made zero sense to me. Sashiro got saved from death by Ilya, dressed up in the same outfit as her great-great-great-great-great-great-grandma, but still died physically anyway. Kirei got killed by Sakura, but was alive anyway, until he wasn't. Zenken died 3 times this film and achieved nothing else. The Ribbon Demon thing was also actually just some Donnie that became a scapegoat for all things evil, and was later summoned as a heroic spirit, and now resides in Sakura because she was force-fed part of the Grail. Not to mention Ryder still being alive at the end somehow, and Shiro being dead, but interacting with others, but also being dead. I can't even formulate my review because I just don't know what to think. I guess I'd give it like a 7.8 out of 10 because it was still a really good movie, but I'm way too stupid to understand what was going on, which keeps me from rating it higher. So overall, the Heaven's Feel trilogy gets an 8.5 out of 10. A respectable score considering how much had to be adapted into only 3 movies. Sakura was definitely the best part of this route, as her story was so much more tragic than I imagined, and she deserved to get a happy ending. Also, I'm actually in the minority with this opinion, as from the looks of it, people think the first one was the worst, even though that was my favourite. I guess I'm in the home stretch now, as I only have one part left to finish, being Fate Zero. Upon finishing Season 1 of Fate Zero, I realised something. The watch order of this series makes no sense no matter how you slice it. Fate Zero can be watched before or after 2006, as they both contain spoilers for each other, so it mainly comes down to which you'd rather experience blindly. I think the season did a really good job at implementing all of these new characters, as the only ones we were familiar with are Saber, Gilgamesh, Kirei, and Kiritsugu. Rin and Sakura are also there, but they don't really do a lot. I actually like Saber a lot more in this show compared to her own route for some reason, possibly due to her dynamic with Irisville. Speaking of Irie, I really like her as a main character. I don't know actually if that's what she is, but we're going to call her that anyway. The show lacks a proper main character, but the season definitely prioritised Saber and Irie over the rest. Honestly, Fate Zero is probably the closest thing we'll get to an Ilya-focused route, but as she literally isn't there for any of the main routes, I highly doubt that she's going to survive Season 2. I can't tell who simps for Saber more at this point, the community or the actual characters themselves. Like we had Shiro, Assassin, technically Archer, and now this ugly ass. Speaking of Caster, that one scene with the child genuinely almost made me cry. That was horrible. And I've watched all of ReZero. I do really like Ryunosuke and Caster as villains, because they are just actually evil. You can't justify them in any way. My only real complaint with the season is that everything felt like a whole load of nothing. Realistically, the only major changes that occurred was Saber's left hand getting put out of commission, and Lancer switching masters. This isn't inherently a bad thing though, as it gives us more time to learn about the characters. I just think that Fate is usually at its best during high intensity moments, which rarely happen this season. Overall, I would give it an 8 out of 10, but I'm hoping that Season 2 will pick up the pace a bit. So, no one won that war. Kiritsugu ended up killing hundreds of people by destroying the Grail, Carrier failed to save Sakura, and the rest just died. Waver somehow came out of this war the best off. He left it with a new understanding of life and became stronger off from it. If I didn't think I could dislike Zoken more, what the fuck? I'm not even going to directly state why, because I don't want to repeat it, but it has to do with a worm and Sakura. Carrier is actually the most tragic character of this whole ordeal, as he willingly went through hell and back just for the woman he loved, and for a chance to free Sakura from her torment. Yet in return, he loses his sanity, goes through extreme physical pain, gets framed as the killer of Aoi's husband, and then kills her in a blind fit of rage. His story is actually really similar to Betelgeuse from ReZero now, that I think about it, and that just makes me feel it for him even more. Also, Kiritsugu's backstory was far sadder than I anticipated, and it really does make you understand why he did everything the way he did. The only time he failed to act, people died, and now we won't ever make that mistake again. This season was definitely more interesting, as we saw a lot more battles between everyone. I mean, we went from everyone still being in the game to everyone being dead in like 12 episodes. I don't think this was that significant of an improvement over the first season, so my rating will only increase to an 8.2 out of 10. but I do see the hype over this season, and it definitely made me like Saber a lot more. My favourite character in the series for once wasn't Rin, and I would honestly say it was either Ryder or Irie, with Saber and Kiritsugu being just behind them. And with that, I have finally finished the entire Fate series. Nope, ignore that one, and all of these. You get the idea. This video has been in the making for like a year at this point, and yet I still left all of the editing to the last day. Yippee for procrastination. I would call myself a fan of Fate at this point, as I probably would have stopped by now if it just sucked. So, for my rankings of the series, I would go Unlimited Blade Works, Heaven's Feel 1, Heaven's Feel 2, Fate 0, and then Heaven's Feel 3 and Fate 2006 are just kind of on the same level, I don't really know. And then Unlimited Blade Works movie. But the real question is, after watching the series, what should the watch order be? And after thinking long and hard, I've come to the conclusion that I have no idea. If you've made it this far, thank you. And if you're a Star Rail player, good luck on your Saber and Archer pulls. If you absolutely agree with everything I said in this video, make sure you dislike the video. But if you have even the slightest disagreement, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks, and have a good day.